KimAppa podcast here. Jarrod and Robbie back. Robbie's relaxed. Look at his, his legs up on the desk.
I'm having a good hair day, by the way.
Yeah, what I always,
I actually, if I actually have to set my curls free, I look like Fido Dido. You know what Fido Dido is?
I remember the name. Oh, it's that one. Yeah.
It's the 7-Up cartoon, remember?
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
I always think with you that your hair can be completely different from a day-to-day basis, where you almost look like a different human being. And the same with your facial hair. Like you're like a chameleon, and every day I'm not sure what Robbie is going to like appear in front of me. It's completely different.
Rakshit and our chat saying Andrew Zaltzman. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna kick your ass there, man.
Yeah, you can't. To be fair, you don't have the sexual machismo of an Andy Zaltzman. You can't pull that look off. Andy Zaltzman has the most comedian hair ever, where he's just like, this hair's actually kind of funny, and if I changed my hair, which I'm sure he could, it wouldn't be as funny. And what's the point of that?
For sure. Yeah.
He does lots of like celebrity stuff in the UK, and he like he'll do a game show fully dressed in cricket kit from head to toe. He's done documentaries like where he's got a helmet on and gloves on and everything. Like when he commits, Andy, he goes all in, but different kind of hair to Robbie. Yeah. I'm going to assume you didn't watch the West Indies-India game test match with like a ferocious passion, Robbie.
I barely watched it. I just kind of tracked the scores. Come on, guys. Like, come on. Can you blame me?
No, you're allowed to. No, I that's absolutely fine.
Like you said on your, was it a reel the other day where you spoke about there are 364 days of cricket, and there are times where you can say it's okay for me to not track this. Yeah. And I know the FOMO, and genuinely with you, I understand the FOMO you experience when a Namibia goes up against South Africa and they end up beating. You had an issue with a women's club game, I think a few months ago, where you were like, oh, this is going to be an easy win for this team, and the opposition team were 8 down. You came back home. I don't know if it was a club. Was it a club game or village game?
It was a 50 over game. It was a county level game. But yeah, but it wasn't like a T20
the FOMO you experienced, like, dude, really? What's up with this guy?
I don't like missing out. So, yesterday there was a great finish in the Oman UAE game, and a friend messaged me going, and so like I came on to watch it, and it was like I'd stumbled onto like some secret thing. Do you know what I mean? Where I was like, yes, me and 12 other people are watching this game at the moment. It was a great little end. No, I do find that, but I think this period of time I wanted to because we've been covering so much cricket, both of us in different ways. I was like, I'm not going to focus. I know Pakistan are playing South Africa as well. And I was like, that again is one too many. And West Indies. And, I've watched as much women's World Cup games as I can, but not first ball, last ball, right? Like it's a bit more what's happening. Am I interested? Like that game yesterday, I was watching halfway through and I'm like, oh, Bangladesh are going to make enough here. This is going to be a really, really good game.
Who were they playing, by the way?
They were playing South Africa. So they made about 230 odd. But it was just, you could tell the wicket was spinning enough. And you're like, well, the Bangladesh spinners are better than the South African spinners. And South Africa's played spin terribly. And in the end, they got home 7 wickets down South Africa in the, was it in the last over?
They were 4 down at a stage, right? They were like 60 or 70 for 4.
Oh, yeah, no, they collapsed. They utterly collapsed. It was a great comeback from them. The wet ball in this tournament, though, it's real. I don't know.
That's going to happen. We're in that time of the year, right? In the
you're the king of Dubai cricket. When are you going to fix all this? You can't play cricket in Dubai anymore. It's too wet.
So transition, right? We've spoken about weathers and how it transitions from one to the other. We just had the weather's become super pleasant, man. Right now, I'm smiling year to year because we don't have to use the ACs anymore. The heaters come back on. We hadn't used the heaters for the last 6. Yeah,
you're not using a heater in Dubai,
bro. It's gotten really pleasant now. Give it another week, and it's gonna be cold, and it's gonna be cold like that till like March, April, which is gonna be phenomenal, man. So I'm really looking forward to the next 6 months.
I'm looking up the weather. It's 34 degrees at the moment.
Compare that to 54, 55 degrees. It's pleasant, dude.
But the minimum temperature was 29 degrees. What? You didn't have a heater on. I'm sorry, I'm debating that fact. You did not.
When I say heater, no, I mean water heater. I forget you live in England. Fuck's sakes.
I'm like, what is going on here? How is he managing
water heater?
Water heater.
To have a bath, to have a shower.
So normally, is the water the water is so hot that you don't need to turn the water heater on.
Scorching, bud. It's scorching.
I didn't know
when I tell you, I have to wash my face in record time so that I before the hot water comes through, because the piping's only got that much insulation, right, to keep the water kind of lukewarm or to keep it even cold for that. So even if I turn the water towards cold, it after like 30 seconds or 45 seconds, it's all hot, like you can't touch it with your hands hot. Imagine putting that on your face. So we turn the water all the way towards hot because you get maybe a minute 15 seconds of cold water, and then you kind of wash your face quickly in that time.
That's
it's
nuts.
fun.
Because I don't remember ever doing that in Australia. Maybe there are other parts of Australia where you do it. Melbourne is, because Melbourne has proper seasons, so maybe it never stays hot for long enough in Melbourne. But that's fascinating. Well, here we go. We've talked about hair,
but it's also because
about
it's also because of these overhead tanks in the villas we live in, right? So we also have overhead tanks on the terraces.
Okay.
Then the underwater tank, as in the sumps they're called. So underground tanks as well. So the underground tanks are slightly better than the overhead tanks. So the overhead tanks get hot during summers, but now they're getting pleasant, which is nice.
I don't know if I agree with 34 degrees being pleasant, but I suppose it's all in context of what you have been living through.
Exactly.
I'm going to give you a new concept today. Okay.
Yeah. So this is an ambush, guys. I have no idea about this concept. And he says, no, this is not an ambush, but this is an ambush. I don't know where he's taking me here.
It's not an ambush. Are you aware of the sporting phrase stock report?
What? Say that again?
Stock report.
No, I don't.
Okay. So a stock report, obviously, in normal terms is this stock up or is this stock down?
Right? Okay. Yeah,
okay. And it's something they use quite a bit in American sports. We do them a bit on TalkSport as well. And so you take a subject and you say whether that particular subject is up or down at the moment based on that. So from this West Indies series, and I'm not talking about whether, just you, I'm talking about, the general narrative, the feels, the vibes and everything, right? At the moment, do you think Shubman Gill stock is up as a captain, the same, or slightly down?
I think it's up. I think it started off slightly, maybe it was a decent entry. But again, it is a stock that people believe that there was a lot of potential for the stock. So, they found early backers and then the stock has actually done really well. And so the stock has actually gone up. And I would say his stock is up right now. And you have to go back to say 4 months ago when he was announced captain of the Test side, going to England, and then you're like, hey, this is a transition in power. How is it going to be? How is it all going to pan out? Nobody knew, and because we saw him lead only in T20 cricket, nowhere else in the IPL. So we felt like, okay, we got to give him that time to kind of evolve as a captain. And I think so far the evolution's been on point for him. Everything is going the way he would have aspired or desired for it to go.
Yeah, I think if the team was in trouble. Do you remember we were doing podcasts during the England series where everyone was like, Gabir must go, Gill's no good and everything. We've gone from that to pretty quickly to back to where they should be. I think if
I was saying that?
No. People were saying that on the chat.
People saying,
you said everyone should be fired, if I remember correctly. But the point being is that I think if you were to go back to that low ebb, right, like after the Australian series, and say you're going to draw in England and then you're going to win the West Indies quite comfortably without any issues at all, I think we'd have to say that's a slight up. It's not a massive up, right, because they didn't win the series in England, and the West Indies one was always more or less expected, but I think it's a slight up. Like they were halfway through that England series, there was a lot of questions being asked and there was a lot of depressed Indian fans. And now you look at the side and go, okay, this makes a bit more sense. So I think that's fair that there's a little bit more positivity towards Shubman Gill.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't agree with the fact that people actually thought that India was going to draw against England, right? I don't think when the series started...
No, that's why I would say that's a slight up, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like I think you would say that's above expectations.
Yeah, 100% above expectations. I think.
Well, halfway through the series, it looked like they were going to get smashed in the face. So the fact that they came back to where they were is really, really impressive, right?
Yes, 100%. So stock up for sure.
Okay. Indian seamers without Bumrah. So they have the great moment at the Oval, right? And then I accidentally opened Twitter yesterday, which obviously is a mistake. It won't happen again. But, and you start to see people again go, oh, they can't even get wickets and everything. And you're looking at this pitch going, this is a flat pitch, right? This is a very, very flat surface. And you should basically have to work for their wickets a bit more. It does feel like now that like every single game, the Indian seamers without Bumrah are being graded quite heavily, when sometimes it might just be the pitch, the surface, the ball, all these other things that sometimes happen. But where do you have them at the moment? Indian seamers without Bumrah.
Stock up.
Okay.
Think about it. They've actually won more test matches in England without Bumrah than with him. And that is a stat I'm certain someone as intelligent as Bumrah is well aware of.
He's very aware of that, I can tell you that.
Yeah, and he'd want to change that.
Yeah.
Because he is India's trump card. Let's not, mince our words here. He's India's trump card as far as winning abroad is concerned. But the fact that they've won test matches without him being in the 11 augurs extremely well for the seamers. Are they a work in progress? 100%. I think they are a work in progress. I think Siraj has stood up incredibly well. And his attitude has outshone everybody else's. I think Prasidh is work in progress. Akashdeep is work in progress. I think there are a few fast bowlers in there as well. Who Harshit Rana is work in progress. But I think all of these guys, the fast bowlers in the Indian team outside of Bumrah, are all work in progress. But right now, I'd say stock up.
I'd say slight up. I don't know if I'd be as comfortable with you. If he was out for 6 months, I'd be very interested to see how this team goes. Right? Like, I do think that is something worth thinking about. But at the same time, I think that there's certainly talent to work with, and some of those bowlers have progressed a little bit and shown some. Yeah. And I think Mohammad Siraj does seem to bowl a little bit better when Bumrah isn't around, which is
exactly. And that's the thing, right? You want to feel like you matter, right? And so it's about making people feel like they matter, their performances matter, and what they're doing for the team matters, right? When you feel like your efforts matter towards the success of the side, what you put on the table is, and the efforts that you put in are so much more. It's just human nature, right? Now imagine the two of us working on something, and then you don't see me putting the effort because I'm not feeling valued enough here. Right? It feels like everyone's talking about what you're doing. Nobody's talking about what I'm doing. Right? So over a period of time, whether it's conscious or subconscious, over a period of time, that my effort is going to dissipate. My interest is going to dissipate a little bit. Right? Even though it's something that serves me in the long run. So, but the minute the team says, okay, you know what, Rob, what you're doing is important to us, and then you or the whole team and the captain and the leadership group make me feel like, hey, what you do is extremely critical to our success, and I'm made to feel valued on a week-to-week, fortnight-to-fortnight basis, I'm going to feel uplifted about my efforts, and I'm going to come in there and try and improve and get better and better and better, because I'm being told constantly that I matter and what I'm doing for the team matters. I know that in today's world, perhaps this is a luxury, but I think it is a necessity in the long run.
No, I think that's fascinating. I don't disagree with any of that. All right, stock up, stock down. I've clicked away. West Indian batters.
I would say stock just remains status quo.
Yeah,
I think they've performed how, as a non-West Indian, I expected them to perform.
So, in the last 3 years of Test cricket, England averaged 36.52 runs per wicket with a bat. India averaged 34.44. Sri Lanka, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and Pakistan are all above 30. What do you think the average runs per wicket is of the West Indies in that time?
20.
20 is a very good guess, actually. I wouldn't have even guessed that low. So you did well. It's 21.4. 21.4. Zimbabwe is above them on 22. Ireland's at 26. Afghanistan's at 26. Obviously, they haven't played as many test matches, although Zimbabwe's played quite a few. they've made 390 away from home against a very good side. Boomer wasn't there, as we just said, so fine. It was a flat wicket. I don't think this suddenly means that they've worked out anything, but it's really interesting that the two guys who made hundreds were John Campbell and Shai Hope, two guys who've not actually always been, close to this side or not in this side, right, at various times. So there's something to be said about that, but there's nothing that makes me want to buy this any more than before. But at the same time, I was really low on them before this, even before the Australia series. So I don't think they're any worse than we thought they were. But they also, I'm not sure that them making 390 on a flattish wicket sort of changes my opinion. However, I think it, at the very least, should give them some confidence that they've managed to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And to be very honest, when I look at the West Indian Test side, and I speak about this only from the Test perspective, right? I think West Indies Test cricket needs to have a hard reset, and they need to figure out how they're gonna, pay their players well, get them interested enough in Test cricket again, build ecosystems at a grassroots level that lead up to Test cricket, where it feels aspirational, where it feels like, oh hey, I want to play Test cricket for West Indies, right? That needs to come through, because that is not coming through right now. As I saw a stat somewhere that, the worst, averages for Test captains by West Indians were the lowest to Roston Chase and Courtney Walsh. It's unfortunate because Roston's a much better player. Yeah, it's not ideal. He's a much better player than that. But it must be a lot that's going on right now that is beyond what we know and can perceive at this point in time. So there genuinely needs to be a hard look at cricket, and you saw their coach also talking about that. They're like, it needs a proper hard look at West Indian cricket and how it works from the grassroots levels or the junior levels.
It's fascinating looking at the batting lineup in this game, and obviously they've got a couple of other players available to them as well. But John Campbell, who's been around for a very long time, who hasn't quite made it. Tej Paul, who is a young player we all had big hopes for, but now looks like a very steady player, at best. Alec Athanase, who I always thought was a bit technically flawed, and now they've got him batting at number 3. He probably needs to bat lower in the order. Shai Hope, who after all these years is back in the side and making runs again, but had one of the worst runs in Test cricket ever. Roston Chase, who you just compared personally to Courtney Walsh's batting. Tevin Imlach, who's the new wicketkeeper. I don't know. Does that mean that the silver was dropped, or is he just injured at the moment? But either way, I know that they like Imlach as someone in the future. So, there's something there. And I think he's made some first-class runs, which we don't see a lot of. And then you got Justin Graves, right, who's kind of in the side because he gives them a little bit of bowling. He's, made a Test 100 at this point. He's not the worst, but he's like a number 8 who sometimes has to bat at number 6 and 7 in this side. Like there's a lot of different issues with that when you look at that lineup. But as I said before, I don't think they're down. I just think that's where they are. That's where they were before, and that's where they are now. Kuldeep Yadav, stock up or stock down, or stock nothing?
So if I had to make comparisons, I would say Kuldeep Yadav is the Zcash of cricket. Zcash is a.
Am I gonna have to Google what Zcash is?
Zcash is a Web3 cryptocurrency, and it's an undervalued cryptocurrency. It's always been one. It's got the same characteristics of Bitcoin, but everyone's been turning a blind eye to it for the last couple of years. And I've bought that stock, and I've been sitting on it for the last couple of years, and now it's just gone up like what, 200% or 500? No, it's gone up 7x or 8x or something like that. Right, and it's done exceptionally well. It's always had value, but it's just been off the radar. It's just people have just been turning a blind eye to it, and suddenly people are seeing it now. Kuldeep Yadav for me is someone like that, someone who's always had abilities and one of the best bowlers in the Indian side, but never and always been overlooked. I genuinely think he will make an incredible Test bowler, and it's a pity genuinely that he's played only as many Test matches in the last 8 or 9 years. He's played 15, if I'm not wrong. How many Test matches has he played?
He's only got like 70 wickets, so he's just not played a lot of cricket at all, has he?
Yeah, no, not at all, which is unfortunate.
I'm quite interested in this because he comes in for this Test match, and I'm just trying to and he takes 5 for 82 and 3 for 104. I think I'm hoping that the 5 for 82 is enough to sort of carry him over, because it's not. We've seen so many like video game numbers from Indian spinners over the last little while, right? Whereas actually,
there have been so many guys who've been dropped from the Indian team after getting 5-wicket hauls and 10-wicket hauls.
Exactly.
Man of the matches.
And then in the second innings, it sort of dies off a little bit. And I was like, I hope he doesn't get, because, there's that other thing that where a player is, Shreyas Iyer was a better T20 player all the way through the Asia Cup just by not being in the side, right? Like sometimes not being in the side is the best thing that can happen to your.
Only you can come up with shit like this, Jar.
Well, you've never heard that. Right? That's a normal thing. But, if you're not in the side, you're perfect, right? And then when you come back in, you're not perfect. And everyone can see that you like that. You see that a lot with sport. And I was wondering
I think people have become less patient with performances now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People don't understand that when you get back into a side, it's not just you hit reset and everything just begins like that. You have to fall back into that ecosystem again, find your place in that ecosystem again based on who you are and who you are to that side, who you are individually and who you are to that side as well. So there are complexities that people aren't able to perceive. Then they expect performances immediately, which is what we said.
Yeah, Kuldeep is literally performing against the expectations that people had for him when he wasn't in the side. Do you know what I mean? And so for him to come in and take the 5-wicket haul, struggled a little bit more in the second innings, but he still took 3 wickets in the second innings, I think is an important thing, because otherwise you end up in this sort of situation of like, if he'd have come in and taken 4 or 5 wickets in this game, and it was a flat pitch, you and I both know everyone would have been like, Kuldeep, we were wrong. We shouldn't have done that. We overhyped him. And that's the problem that you have at the moment, as you said, but that you almost have to be perfect all the time. So I think this is a slight up, right? Considering
Kuldeep,
there's a lot of hype.
Massively up. Massive up, I would say.
I'm going slight up only based on the fact that everyone was already overhyping him out of the team. That's all my slide up is up for.
But then that's the thing. The stock didn't take off because it should have taken off a long time ago. And that's why I compared him to a token that is undervalued, right? I think he's undervalued.
And Are you just trying to get people to buy Zcash, by the way?
No, I'm not. I'm just giving you an analogy, remember? So I think he's really an undervalued entity, and the fact that he's finally got the opportunity to play Test cricket, and there you go, this is what this kid can do if you give him the opportunity regularly to play Test cricket. And then you're like, hey, now the stock goes up. It should go up now. So I think it's more than slightly up for me. I would say banana zone.
Banana zone. KL Rahul, stock up, stock down, stock nowhere.
Stock slightly up.
It's interesting. I saw a lot of people still complaining, and I don't know if Varun's in our chat today, but if Varun was also saying that like he can't transfer his image, right, completely, because he doesn't make the innings that change his average. He does, like the Shubman Gill knock, right, against England, where you make so many runs that you literally just bump your average up like 2-3 notches straight away, 4 or 5 notches in some cases, right? And so the problem with KL Rahul is even when he's in form, he makes a very good 100, but it's not moving his average up to like a dramatic pitch. But if you look at his cricket over the last little while, he looks like a much more comfortable player over the last few years in Test cricket than we ever saw before. So he'd have to be stock up.
Yeah, stock up for sure, slightly up. And I do agree with what Varun's saying, as in we haven't seen a massive double 100 from KL in a while, and it'd be great to see that. And I think everyone who loves KL and who supports loves his batting and supports him would love to see that for KL Rahul as well. You want him to be able to score those massive hundreds and not just 100 and consistent 50s and hundreds. Now you want to see him step up because he's got the ability, dude. So it's about him just maximizing those opportunities when he's set, knowing when to switch off whilst batting and then switch back on and kick on from 100 to 150. And I reckon muscle memory will take over if he gets past 150. And then it'll be hard to stop that guy.
Jomel Warrican, I think he's fascinating because I really wanted to see him tested in this series. And he was. So that was spectacular. But I really wanted to see him tested in this series because I don't know how good he is. And I think he's someone who I've rated quite highly for a while. But I'd be interested to know if how you sort of felt of Warrican in this. I think I was wondering if he was close to world class, and I think watching the series, I can see he's the step below that now, but still a very, very respectable bowler for the West Indies that they can use for a while.
Dude, I thought, very honestly, I thought he was all right, and it's not a stock that I would buy. Because I don't see him troubling people at the international level too much.
He's got 78 wickets at 29.5 so far in his career. So it's not bad. It's not a bad record.
How many wickets did he get in the series, Rakshit? Do we have that?
He got, where is he? I have no idea how many he got. He got, let's have a look, 5 wickets in the series in 3 innings. So he got 1 for 102 in the first innings, first test, sorry. And then he got 3 for 98 and 1 for 39, going at about 3.5, 2.8, 2.5. I think that for me is almost more important than the wickets because there was no pressure from the other end at several times when he was bowling. But the fact that India didn't score quickly off him, which we've seen from other finger spinners before, right? Like we've seen other finger spinners struggle. And these weren't the wickets of a couple of years ago that Jack Leach was spinning the ball sideways on, right? These are, this wasn't a Tom Hartley pitch, right? He had to do the work on this wicket. I think it has him just at that sort of level below like a world-class bowler. So he's not like Maharaj, right? But he's just below that sort of a level where you're like, this is actually a good player to build around for a while.
Give me a comparison when you say just below world class.
Well, I would say Jack Leach was probably just below world class.
You would compare him with the Jack Leach?
I think they're different kinds of bowlers, but as far as impact goes, I think they can hold up an end when needed, and probably when the conditions are in their favour, they're very good bowlers. But I don't think they're as smart or as varied as Maharaj when he can work things out on a flatter wicket, right? So that's the difference. I think with the left arm finger spinner, that's the difference for me, right? Which is, can you still be useful on days when there's no reason for you to be useful? And that was where Jack Leach always struggled, I felt, right? And and I would probably put Warrican in a sort of similar section to that as well. Which is it's still a good bowler.
He's all right, doesn't he? He's got 400 first-class wickets, right? So it doesn't mean he's a bad bowler, but because I would say your effectiveness as a spinner will be tested when you come to a country like India, right? Because over day 3 and 4 and 5 are conducive in India to get wickets, unless the wicket's an absolute flat track, right? Because when it's flat, even if it turns, it's slow turns, so you can really manage as a batter. But if you're, say, in 3 innings able to get 5 wickets, and especially with the kind of runs like he got 1 wicket for 100 in that first innings, Noman Ali.
Yeah. Noman Ali is an interesting one, actually. Now I'm just clicking on random things. I think Noman Ali is another interesting one. Then these are not bad cricketers, but it's that level below. Whereas I thought that Warrican was slightly higher than this coming in, and that he would put a little bit more pressure on the Indian player. So he did half the job that I wanted, but maybe not everything. Anyway,
compare him to an Ashton Agar or someone below that?
No, he's a lot better than Ashton Agar. I mean, I've never seen you bowl spin, but I would put you on the level of Ashton Agar.
Okay.
Well, Ashton Agar is a stock bowler, right? Like Ashton Agar is. Would you ever pick Ashton Agar if he couldn't bat? Probably not. Like
if I was Australia, I would.
If he couldn't bat and you're just picking him as a bowler, I think there were better left-arm finger spinners available. Agar's interesting because because he is tall, he does have the ability to stop you scoring at times, right? Like, that, like a sort of traditional tall left-arm finger spinner. He has the ability.
What about Xavier Bartlett? Sorry, not the other Xavier.
Xavier Doherty.
Xavier Doherty, yeah.
God, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah. Would you compare Jomel to Doherty?
I think Warrican's just a much better bowler than Xavier Doherty. But I think they're quite similar to watch, though, I think. But I just think that I think the Warrican can spin the ball more consistently and has whereas I think if you go back and you remember Xavier Doherty, there's a lot of pushing the ball through making sure that he kept you in place. And once international players worked that out, he didn't have a plan B. And the big difference is that, and some of this is about the wickets you grow up on, Xavier Doherty never really bowled on wickets that were in his favour. And so even when he went to play on them, he didn't, do you know what I mean? He didn't dominate. Whereas Jomel Warrican has actually played on wickets that have favoured him at times. And so generally he can step it up when he needs to. That's such a Xavier Doherty. I think we need like a random bingo card for when one of us just picks up a player from nowhere and dumps them onto this show. West Indies team in general, final stock report. West Indies team in general, right?
Stock down.
See, I don't think it's stock down. I think this is how they should have performed in India.
Yeah, but stock slightly down.
Really? How can they be down? They actually got India to bat twice in one of the games.
Well, maybe I'm too old for this, but my perception of a West Indian side is like even a non-performing West Indian side is slightly better than this.
I think that for the team they brought on paper, I think it's neutral. I think if you start to look at that team on paper, as we did a moment ago, you do start to think, my God, what is this side? And as you said before, like the reset just needs to come. I think they played pretty much exactly as I thought they would play in this series, though, in that they were going to have a moment or
the performance
two
was
small
expected.
moments. Yeah. So for me, I would have them as neutral. But you might be right, because looking at that, it's like you look at that team, it's not a team that's about to go and win in New Zealand, is it? Like, do you expect them to win a test in New Zealand? I don't think so, based on that.
Nope.
Maybe they're fast
they
bowlers.
don't have that, especially if their fast bowlers aren't ready yet.
Yeah. You know, if they could steal a game, and we've seen them do that occasionally when traveling around.
It doesn't feel like there's enough character in those batters, right? Because
I don't think it's about character. I think there's not enough talent.
It's unfair, but...
Okay. So it's okay to say they don't have character, but not talent.
When I say character, I mean like they have the ability, but just not the fight in them sometimes.
I don't think they have the ability.
Fair enough.
I mean, you've got a lot of guys who are averaging low 20s, high 30s in first-class cricket. I just don't think they have the ability. I'm not sure how many other teams in the world... John Campbell's just made a Test 100. I'm not sure how many other teams in the world he plays for.
Fair.
And I love watching John Campbell. Like, I'm a big fan of watching him. But all right, we've done our first stock report. See, that wasn't an ambush, was it? Or was it an ambush?
Well, no, it was a little bit of not an ambush, isn't it? I just didn't know what's going on. But Rakshit, thanks, man. Great work on that little stock report. That we should make it a regular.
Yeah, no, we definitely will. I've got some other things to bring in for you that you'll like as well. The Australian women's team beat India the other day. Did you see that game? No. Okay. This is what I want to talk about. Less about that game and more about the makeup of this side. I made this graphic, so apologies if it's not as neat or as tidy as Rakshit's ones are. But this is the Australian women's team for that game. Alyssa Healy, Litchfield, Perry, Mooney, Sutherland, Gardner, McGrath, Molyneux, Garth, King, and Shute. Right? That's the team. They bat down to number 9. So when Kim Garth originally played for Ireland, Robbie, she opened the batting, she batted first drop, and she batted second drop for Ireland. So let's say that that's a slight promotion, because the Irish women's team is not particularly strong. Let's say she's only good enough in a normal team to bat at like number 5 or number 6. She's batting at number 9 in this side, right? Alana King, I haven't put a little bat next to Alana King, but she's made runs in this tournament. And I think Alana King for another side is probably a pretty solid number 8 and maybe a number 7 if they're struggling a little bit. And she's batting at number 10. So they have batting to number 9 with a number 10 who is better than normal. And then look at the amount of bowling options they have in this side. Ellyse Perry basically doesn't bowl anymore because they don't need Ellyse Perry to bowl anymore. Plus, she's really, really old now. And since she did her back, I don't think she bowls at the same. But they don't need her bowling because they have 7 other bowling options. And so a couple of times in this tournament, Talia McGrath just got smashed. And it just doesn't matter because they just throw the ball to someone else. I'm not sure we've seen many teams in the history of cricket that can bat this deep with this many bowling options ever. Right? Men's cricket, women's cricket, franchise cricket. You can look anywhere you want. And it shows you I want you to think from a coach's perspective, when you're coming up against a team like that, it's so hard to scheme, right? Because if you take down one or two of their bowlers, they don't need to bowl them at all. If you take down an Indian bowler, Harmanpreet has to come on. She got hit for 10 runs in one over the other day, right? Harmanpreet wouldn't even get a bowl in this Australian side. She wouldn't bowl an over. There's just nowhere to fit her bowling into this side. It's such a unique structure that I don't know if we've ever seen anything like it before. And this is a choice. They've decided to do this. They've got other specialists they could have gone with. They're like, no, we're going all in with all-around talent.
Man, this is a luxury. There's actually more than a luxury for a cricket side, right? As in, how often do you come up against where you have 2, 4, 6, 8 bowlers, man, in the 11? That is amazing.
Ridiculous. Yeah. I reckon the Surrey Blast team might have been a team recently that had something like that as well. And I remember talking to Gareth Batty at one stage, and he was saying to me, how do I fit these players in? And I went, you're going about this wrong, Bats. I said, you can bat to number 9 and you can have 8 bowling options. Just do that. And he went, oh, what about specialists? And I said, look, I'm all for specialists, but when you have this kind of talent that you have, the other option is, what is the opposition going to do? Like, so you're a top order batter, you're in a game, and you've seen off the 2 best new ball bowlers and the best spinners on. You as a batter are starting to go, okay, when's the 5th bowler going to come on? When's the young guy who's the 4th bowler going to come on? Can I get through one of these people, right? Can I completely upset their bowling patterns from here on in? Maybe one big over against a part-timer and I can completely do this. I don't know what you do when you have a side that has this many bowling options to begin with.
There's not much. You just hope that they have a bad day, and as a unit, which, like, see, out of 11, maybe 2 or 3 have bad days, right?
Yeah.
But for the most, especially well-performing teams, 2 or 3 have bad days, but the rest of them will turn up and stitch up a good performance that will take you over the line. But like this side, man, this looks like this is a gun side. I reckon it's missing there's no respite
things
for the opposition.
Yeah, it's missing 2 things, I reckon, which is elite pace, which it no longer has, and left arm seam. And that's pretty much it.
That's nitpicking.
No, exactly. It's got a wrist spinner. It's got 2 finger spinners that go in either direction. It's got slower ball bowlers. It's got Annabelle Sutherland who bowls high. It's got Megan Shute who swings the ball around. They can go really they've got an anchor in Ellyse Perry if they need it, but also Litchfield and Mooney can play as anchors if they need them. And in this tournament, Sutherland and Gardner have completely stood up in different roles at different times for them. Like, do you know what I mean? As we said before, Kim Garth and Alana King have made runs. It is an absolutely ridiculous cricket team. And I don't know what you would do as an opposition. And I think the India side's quite interesting. England, South Africa. I think South Africa just can't play spin well enough for this particular tournament, but they've got some really good players and they keep pulling out surprise wins at the last minute. But then you look at this team and you're like, I don't know how the rest of them are supposed to beat them consistently. You beat them once maybe, but consistently, it is so tough. Do you think it's better to have 8 bowling options in ODI cricket than in one-day cricket? Than in T20 cricket. I almost got that right.
Yeah, ODI cricket for sure.
That's what
then
I thought.
You can never really be found out as your weaknesses can never be found out because you're keeping the opposition too busy with the options you have. With T20 cricket, it becomes harder to kind of it becomes slightly easier to kind of hide as well, because even if you had 7 bowlers, you take 3 of them off, and say 3 of them are having a bad day. And then you still use the other 3 and you still target them, right? But in one-day cricket, you can actually go about you say 2 of them are having a bad day, then you use other 2 sparingly, right? And then you have the option of still using another one, third one outside of your top 5 bowlers.
Because I was thinking, like, the way it works for me, this is what I agree with you. I think ODI cricket makes more sense to have the 8 options because you can have like a micro spell where you bring on, let's say you bring on Ash Gardner for like 4 overs at one stage and you bowl her for 4 overs and she gets time to get into a rhythm. She bowls really well. And then you're like, okay, we don't need the off spinner again in this game, right? Whereas if that's in T20 cricket, it's like 1 over, and then you're like, do you give her a second? And so you end up with a bunch of, if you have 8 options, you end up with a bunch of people bowling 1 over, right? Whereas in one-day cricket, because it's a few extra overs, it allows them to get into their game a little bit. So you're almost maximizing the 8 options. In Test cricket, do you think 8 bowling options is too much? Would that is because no one can get, it's very hard for anyone to get in a rhythm as a bowler.
I'll tell you who will be happy. The fast bowlers will be happy. There are 8 bowling options in a test.
Well, it depends. Courtney Walsh and Glenn McGrath wouldn't be happy. Jimmy Anderson wouldn't be happy, right?
Yeah.
Someone said you forgot to put a bat sign in front of King. I didn't. She's not a batter. As I said, she can hold a bat, but she's not. I went through all of King's numbers.
I have a question, by the way.
Yeah.
What is considered express fast bowler in women's cricket? What speed?
I think once you're over 120, you're fast. And probably over, you need to be able to get the odd ball over 125, I think, to be considered express.
So if you're above 125, you're considered express pace.
Yeah, and there's a couple that have obviously been around that 128, 129, 130 sort of period. But anything over 125, I think 120, you watch a bowler who bowls 120 and they still rush people quite a bit. So I think that's about fair. There's I think it was Tim Wigmore has done a lot of research on this, and so have a couple of the people who work in women's cricket of what the kind of top end is, because we actually haven't had the first generation of women's cricketers who have come through yet, who from the age of 3 and 4 have been in the in the proper systems. Do you know what I mean? Like the academies and all that, all the way through, because there was always that separation before. So it'd be interesting to see if when we get that in the next 3 to 4 years, if we start to see a jump up of about 3 to 4 kilometers on the back of that. Because I've just done a big piece on Ellyse Perry. And when you go back and you watch her bowl when she was young, it's not a good action. Like, she's clearly an incredible athlete, but it's a bit of a, I didn't remember how bad her action looked. And then 3 years later, she's got the arm up, she's coming through correctly and everything. Whereas there's going to be a whole generation of girls who become women in the next couple of years who will have always been in that system. And, there's heaps of fascinating things about women's cricket as well, about the hips as well. Like, women generally swing the ball back in more than they swing it away. And that's because of the different body types than they have compared to men, and the different actions, a lot more front on compared to side on, all these different things. So there's a lot of fascinating things about women's cricket that we don't know, because we only learned all this stuff about men's cricket 10 or 15 years ago, and the women are just coming through that system now. Because I think, have you seen Sarah Glenn bowl from England? So she's a leg spinner. She's got this really good record. And I sent a message to the England women's bowling coach going, I know she's great. She's taken a lot of wickets, but biomechanically, this doesn't make sense. And he's like, you're right, but you're comparing it to other male leg spinners. And he said, we don't know what female leg spinners should be like biomechanically. Should they be exactly the same, or should they be different? And I was like, yeah, I don't. That's
probably right.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know that. Anyway, I've got a fun one for you here. Have you heard much about Joe Root batting in Australia for this Ashes? Have these things, have they permeated the Robbie algorithms? You've missed them?
Not yet. Not. They haven't come. It hasn't come there yet.
So Matt Hayden has said that he will run naked if Joe Root doesn't make 100 in Australia.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that.
So, I mean, if that's, you probably want to get that one out of your mind. Maybe that's the reason that you've got away from it. What's the other one? Darren Lehman said that Joe Root can't be considered a great batter if he doesn't make 100 in Australia. And David Warner has basically said that, Joe Root is the biggest issue that they have in Australia. And this is normal stuff, right? Like, Australian cricketers targeting the best player from the opposition and everything else. But what fascinated me about this is Darren Lehman failed in Test cricket in part because he struggled against England at home, weirdly enough. Made a lot of runs for Yorkshire, but in Test cricket he struggled against England. And then this is Joe Root's record in away Ashes series. So he averages about 35, right? So it's quite low down the list. It's not a great record, and there's no hundreds in this record. So he's played 14 matches in Australia, 9 50s, and no hundreds, averaging about 35, 36, right? But the person who's talking about running around naked and everything, Robbie, is Matt Hayden. That's Matt Hayden's record in England. From 10 matches, he made 100 and 150 and averaged slightly less than Joe Root. David Warner's the other guy bringing up the comments. This is David Warner's record in Ashes away from home. I know hypocrisy is not always high on the level of Australian cricket, but it does feel like they're protesting a little bit too much, these guys, right? And it's like, if Joe Root never ends up making 100 in Australia and averages, let's say he averages 36, 37, right? How much of a ding do you think that has on his overall record when he's been so good everywhere else?
No, it doesn't matter. Like, this is a mini goal more than a macro goal. You know what I mean? This is something that it's a box to be ticked off more than anything else. Like, if you ask him if this is a priority for him, he'll say absolutely not. As in, winning in Australia probably is much more of a priority than anything else.
I think that's almost literally what he said.
Yeah. So I don't think people who are this great worry about stuff like this. And this is obviously narratives and, having these conversations and building up a series is concerned. And certain people are given and handed the responsibility to amp the series up for multiple reasons. And so they're doing it. And did Matthew Hayden say that if he gets 100, I'm going to run around naked?
If he doesn't get 100.
Doesn't get 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if he really wants to, and we know how great Joe Root is as a batter in Test cricket. He's probably one of the best. That's played at that level.
Maybe best 15. Some people might say.
Yeah, some people might say. So, given that, if he really wants to, then he can. I think a lot of it also will lie on what he believes about his performances in Australia. A lot of the times you feel like in some parts of the world it just doesn't, like, you're not able to get past a certain level, right? And you believe that, and because if you believe that, then that becomes your outcomes, And I'd like to know if he's ever got 100 in any format in Australia.
I would assume he has. I don't know if I have his stats here, but can I give you someone else's stats quickly? Oh no, actually,
no.
Let me. There's a reason I want to do this. Is Ricky Ponting a great?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
No doubt.
Do you know what Ricky Ponting's batting average is in India?
Oh, wouldn't be too great.
What's not too great though?
I'd say mid-20s.
Yeah. So he's made 100 in India, but averages 26, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember too many conversations from Australian cricketers saying that he can't be a great because he only averages 20 odd in India.
Yeah, you'll never find that. So you'll always find your Aussies chatting and having that chatterbox on when people are traveling to Australia.
Joe Root is worse Joe Root is worse in ODIs in Australia than he is in tests. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a technical thing at that point.
No, it's not a technical thing. It could be a mental thing.
He's averaging 28, top score of 91 not out in ODIs. That is fascinating. That I'm more interested in now.
Yeah. So I think it's
you don't think it might be the extra bounce?
No, actually, because he's got hundreds in New Zealand. The bounce is as much and does a little bit more.
Actually, the one to look at is South Africa, isn't it? South Africa is the one with this next best bounce. So, where are we here? Oh, sorry, he averages 35 in Australia in 1 day. That was versus Australia. But yeah, hasn't made 100. In South Africa, he averages 60.
Yeah, so it's not bounce. It's genuinely, no, I don't think it's bounce. I think it's about I think it's about what you believe, right? So it gets in your head sometimes, right? It gets in your head to a point where it starts eating away from you. And high-performing individuals, high-performing athletes want to be successful everywhere, right? And if after a point they haven't been able to crack it, they'd be like, you know what, maybe I'm just amping this up. And you try too hard sometimes to get to that 100. So you're not focusing on the process of getting the 100. You're focusing on actually just that ticking that box off sometimes. And that becomes overwhelming and that puts pressure on you and you get tight. That could be one of the things that's happening with a great like Joe Root, just about Australia.
Can I tell you something that I think will help Joe Root? Pat Cummins is not playing in the first test and may not play many tests at all in this Ashes. Does that change how you think about the Ashes?
No, sometimes it's not about the players. Sometimes it's just about the place sometimes.
Oh, no, I get that, but I'm saying, like, Pat Cummins has a really good record against Joe Root because Pat Cummins bowls the ideal ball to Joe Root, right? Which is the one that's angling in and goes away at the top of off stump, which is basically the ideal ball to everyone. But specifically because Joe Root doesn't come very far forward, he can't get on top of that ball.
Yeah,
we've seen Cummins torture him a little bit. Like, you don't think there's an element of he might look at that and go, that's fine, but also from the chances. I think that gives England a huge chance in this series, even if Australia still has the best bowling attack, even without Cummins.
Well, it gives them a chance, but they'll have to earn every win. How much will Bazball play a part of the whole thing? Will they stick to that template or will they move away from it? I don't see them moving away from it, but are their fast bowlers fit enough as well? Because they have to get the wickets as well, right?
Are their fast bowlers good enough as well?
Exactly. So
because they're not as good as Australia, are they?
Yeah, no, or not at this point in time. Like those guys who played against India are not going to cut it for them. You need Mark Wood to be fit.
You need Jofra available.
Updaters about Chris Woakes retired, like we said he would.
Yeah, I think.
What's the inside story on that?
I think it's just his body, right? I think we might have talked about this on a podcast.
We had a conversation at length about this.
Yeah. Where I said that I had heard things that he might not even play that summer because his body was so bad. And when Warwickshire saw him come back, they were all like, oh, God, he's done. And do you remember I talked about when he was fielding in a game, it was one of the test matches, and he went down on the ground and he did not look like he could get back up. Like his body looked like he was a Lego man or something. Yeah. Not even exhausted, but like stiff.
Broken.
Like it just was, everything just looked very stiff. And he didn't look like he had the flexibility anymore. He was bowling very slow as well. I just think it was a combination of all those things. I think he's made the right decision. It is possible, and I haven't been around the camp, so I haven't asked anyone, but I think it is very possible that they just said to him, you're not coming to the Ashes. And he was like, well, that's fair. I finished my career then, which I think is a perfectly reasonable way for him to finish. It's one of the more bizarre careers, right, Chris Woakes, because we know how good he was at home. We know how good he could be with the bat, and yet we all kind of feel like it was a bit of a mere career of someone who was supremely talented. I remember being at the MCG. He mustn't have been very old when he smashed Australia I think it was in a T20 game with a bat. And I was thinking, this guy could be anything, but he never really was anything. He was just Jimmy Anderson's understudy pretty much his entire career.
And I think England do that with a lot of players. I think they focus so much on hyping up some players that they don't maximize on the abilities and talents of other players. I think somebody else that they didn't maximize their opportunities were someone like Moeen Ali, Chris Woakes. I think both of these guys could have been like genuine all-rounders that performed for you at a high level. There's so many times I've been so befuddled by the fact that Mo Ali batted up and down the batting order so often for England. And like, dude, that guy can be a solid number 3 and can be a solid off-spinning all-rounder for you, and you're just underutilizing him. It did not make sense.
Well, someone also like, with him, you bring him in.
Imagine if you actually utilize someone like Chris Woakes and Ben Stokes and gave them equal attention, you probably would have 2 high-quality all-rounders.
Well, I wonder what would have happened in an alternate universe if Jimmy just retires at a normal age. Jimmy retires at like 34 or 35, right? Maybe even 36. Do you remember Brett Lee had a good career for Australia, right? But could have been one of the greats of all time. And it was, when I say good, like it was certainly a well above average career. But when McGrath and Gillespie completely disappear, Brett Lee for about a year was like the best bowler. Like he was up there with Dale Steyn for about a year out of nowhere. And I just wonder if he didn't have McGrath at the other end, if he just develops a little bit quicker, right? Because he has to do all the tough stuff. Then he can't just bowl when it's suiting Brett Lee. Suddenly he has to develop his game a little bit more. And because of the way that Woakes' career ends up, anytime they need a holding bowler overseas, it's going to be Jimmy, right? Anytime they're picking between, they can only take one, swing bowler in, it's going to be Jimmy. And so Woakes doesn't develop in the same way. And we talked about that with Siraj before, right? Like sometimes you need to be the person who has all the pressure put onto them, right? And there are other guys. Yeah, and other guys are better as the number 2. Like Jason Gillespie was an incredibly great player, but Jason Gillespie was like the second best bowler in that side all the way through. And when he was the main bowler in the side, Australia didn't look like any, that kind of a force anymore, right? And he didn't look like that. But as the second best bowler in the side, he was absolutely fantastic. Whereas for some other guys, they want the pressure of having to stand up. And Woakes never really had to do that. And it feels like to me, the development thing that you talked about is how I kind of see it. It's like, I'm just never sure he developed the way that they wanted him to. And because of that, they couldn't use him all the time.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think he was not developed enough, well enough, and given enough attention and importance for his abilities to really flourish and bloom into whatever it could have actually been. I still think he had a great career, notwithstanding that. But I think it wasn't maximized. It could have been maximized.
If Rakshit could take this thing off my face. I want to talk to you about something that you want to talk about, actually. But I want
to talk to you about it. I was waiting for a segue for that.
Yeah.
Now
go.
We've had this interesting thing. Yeah, we've had this interesting thing happen in India, right? Where fantasy gaming's gone off and probability gaming's gone off, right? And we have to understand from a business perspective, it's a huge market, right? Fantasy gaming was, I think, 200,000 crores of business and revenue in India, which has just gone off, just wiped off the table at the moment, right? And how much do you think that impacts the global kind of scale of this whole thing?
It's huge. So what it really does, and I say this as someone who, I wish people wouldn't bet, right? Because betting is basically scamming people most of the time, right? And I always hold my position on that. If you know what you're doing,
same, ditto,
and you're waiting things, I'm more than happy. But generally, these things are scamming people. But I also know that there is no way to stop people betting, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And what it does is it pushes people underground. So before, you had people working for, My 11 Circle and Dream 11 and Probo and Daffer and all these different places. Thousands of people have lost their jobs. But the vast majority of that money will still be traded somewhere, right? So where's it going to go now? It's going to go to illegal markets. It's going to go to corrupt people who don't always pay out. People are going to have, if people want to make bets, they're going to have to be involved with, the mafia in many different cases, with underworld figures and everything else. So you don't stop people betting. What you do is you make it criminalized and you make it worse, and they have to do it in a different way. Any person in India right now with a Telegram account can bet. Right, like it's not particularly hard to be able to do this, and so if I could wave a magic wand and stop people doing things like smoking and betting, I probably would. But that's not how society works, and it's never alcohol, drugs. You can any of those vices you can put in there. People have always done them from the very birth of civilization through to now. So we can't stop it. So I would rather the way that it's been done in some other countries. And I think Australia was one of the first ones in the world to sort of understand that actually the betting industry knows a lot about the sport. They know how fans consume it, but they most importantly help when it comes to match fixing, when it comes to, irregular markets, all these sorts of things. So you actually want to be friends with the people who are involved with the betting rather than the opposite here. And the ICC, BCCI, Cricket Australia, all these different boards hire companies who look at betting data to give them information on match fixing already, right? That already exists. So having a partnership with those and those companies, the betting companies, are quite often very nervous about this, and so sometimes they're not particularly good at it. But I know there's a group at the moment of betting companies who are trying to do this properly and are going trying to come through and because when a game is corrupt, the people who are most put off by this are the bookies, right? Yeah. Because, you look at some of those BPL games I was talking about, the bookies had to stop putting bets out. So they lose money on it because they can't trust the cricket that's being played in front of them at that point. So the bookies are usually more about trying to stop the corruption and everything else. Doesn't mean that there isn't corruption within bookmaking and everything else, because there still is, but specifically when it comes to the games. So I think you want to partner with them, right? And you want to be involved. Yes, you tax the gambling companies very heavily. I think that's fair. You and I would both agree with that. They make an awful lot. What did you just say? 200 crore? I don't know what that is in normal money, but it sounds like an awful lot to me. Right?
200,000 crores.
Yeah,
so
and I remember
that's the figure I've heard.
Yeah, and I remember Dream 11 were worth $1 billion before most of us heard their name. Right, that's how quickly they grew. There's, these betting companies that were springing up that were already unicorns when it comes to investing, and most of us didn't know they existed. Right, there's so much money in this. You're talking about $100 to $150 million traded on a cricket game. Right, when it's an IPL game or when it's an India game or when it's a major World Cup game, whatever that may be, that is a huge amount of money, and sometimes it goes beyond that. Sometimes it can go up to 250. Yeah. Right. Huge amount, and that's on the legal markets, by the way. The illegal markets are sometimes trading 5 to 10 times more than that as well. So if you've got $1 billion industry going through illegal markets, surely what you have to do is legalize it, right? Because otherwise you're in a really bad situation where you're giving a lot of money to bad actors. Now, I know that you recently had to go through the court systems and talk about all this sort of stuff. So I know it's personal to you.
It was actually... Yeah, it was kind of weird. As in how can it be personal when it's plastered all over the newspapers, right? I did a promotion for a surrogate company in 2021, and the amount was for 7 lakh Indian rupees. And I didn't even promote it, but I just had it in the sense that it was on the background, like KimAppa was on our screen right now.
Yeah.
It was like that, right? And I'm someone who believes that you need to take responsibility for your actions, right? You need to take ownership and do what you want to do, but own it, right? I can't take responsibility for other people and their actions, but I will take responsibility for mine. And I think one man's food is another man's poison, right? And what works for one person doesn't work. So trading doesn't work for me, so I don't trade. Day trading doesn't work for me, so I don't trade. I actually do other stuff. I do long-term investments that work for me, so I do that, right? But for someone who day trading works for on a daily basis, he swears by it, and he's like, "What are you doing investing long term? Do this every day, and I've mastered this. Do this." But that works for you, so do you. So do what works for you. If you think probability gaming, fantasy works for you, do it. Is it advised? No. But if it works for you and it's working for you, hey, it's your boat. Row.
And if it's not, stop. Right?
Stop. Yeah, if it's not, stop. Don't be stupid about it. Right? Be sensible about it, be responsible for your own life, be responsible for the decisions you make and the impact it has on other people around you. If it's your own life and doesn't impact other people, go ahead, do what you want. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Stop, and that's how I operate as a person. So for me, I went there and I sat there and I answered every question that I could answer. And they asked me generally, what do you think? Are you a gambling person? I've never gambled in my life. I've never gone to a casino.
I bet you have.
I've gone to a casino, but for promotion. But I've never put money. I've never gone and gambled in a casino. I've played with friends. Played poker with friends during lockdown. There was a period of a year or two where we would play together. We play poker and we put 100 rupees, 200 rupees, whatever. And even that, after a point, when I lost a hand, I'd be like, dude, why am I doing it? It didn't feel right. Yeah. So I don't do it. So for me, what doesn't feel right, I just don't do it. So for me, I think anything illegal must be legalized, so you have control over it, and then you can tax it. And then there's a lot of good that can come from those taxes. You can put that to work. That's what I believe. So I believe stuff like gambling has to be legalized. I think what UK does, what I think Australia also do, is they've legalized it and they tax it heavily, right? I was like, when people said, hey, now 18% tax has gone up to 28% tax or something like that, right? It's what they're doing. So it's what they're doing with cryptocurrencies, right, in India. So right now they're taxing it at 30% a transaction. Because oh, what happened? Is that a fox?
Sorry about that.
What happened?
Oh, I can't hear you. Wait.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I'll come back in. Sorry. That's
okay. Well, he leaves me to a monologue. So I think it's better to actually go ahead and legalize this stuff so that you have a lot more control over it. You probably will take some time to learn how the whole ecosystem works. But once you understand how the whole ecosystem works, then you can actually figure it out. You can actually put systems to control the whole space out. That's what I think one can do. I think it is. I think even for the government, it's a big hit because the Indian government lose out on close to £2 billion. I think that's what 200,000 crores amounts to, and I think they lose that kind of revenue and but they've still made an educated call because a lot of people were being irresponsible with all of this stuff, and people were losing homes over this, losing lives over this, just on a whim, and I think that is irresponsible. I think that is stupid. And if you've got that kind of tendency, then you have to stop. You shouldn't be doing this stuff. That's crazy then. And that's completely being unaware of who you are as a person. Then once you try something and it doesn't work for you the first few times, then that's not something that you should be getting into. Because I've done that. I've tried to day trade for a little bit. Didn't work for me. Then I just completely stepped away from it because I was like, okay, this doesn't work for me. It fascinated me. I studied it. I learned it, but I tried it. Didn't work for me. I backed away from it because I can't keep taking a chance on stuff like that. And for me, I think the F&O markets are that kind of markets. It either works for you or it doesn't. You're either wired for it or you aren't. That was something that I certainly think holds true for gambling and even fantasy gaming. Be responsible with it. Jarrod, I don't know where you are, but be great if you can come back now. Otherwise, I'll have to keep going. There's honestly not much else to talk about, and I'd love to go on the comments. We could go there on the quizzing channel. Yeah, man, I love the quizzing channel. Kumar is a very dear friend. It was a lot of fun. We should actually do something like that. We should actually get you guys involved and do like a proper quiz. And maybe Jarrod and I should host it and bring a couple of select players on and have a giveaway at the end of it. Good idea? What do you think? Let us know. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, my headphones went flat. I thought it was the same problem as last week. I do like hours and hours of podcasts where nothing ever goes wrong, and I come on with you, and everything falls apart, and it's clearly your fault. I meant to. We should.
No, I'll tell you what. This is the whole Joe Root paradox, right? I think that's what it is. You believe that every time you come here, something goes wrong, and that's what happens. That becomes your reality.
I do believe you're bad luck. That is fair. I'm the
best thing that's happened to you in over a year, so shut up.
Wait, when was my daughter born? When we should get you on some Crick Pick episodes, man, as well. And some. I think you really like that, and we will do like really tough ones that you can only ever be roasted for online, which is the way it should be.
Isn't that already happening right now? Aren't you guys roasting me enough? Like the fans that are like, come on, like go through the comments. Oh no. No, it's not a trauma level, but you want to get it to trauma level right now.
Yeah. Have you done all the super chats?
I've done this. I've just started the quizzing ones because just generally what was talking about.
Are you a quizzer? You look like a quizzer.
Yeah, I've done it. There's a really good friend of mine, Kumar Varun, who's a stand-up comedian who's mad about sports, and he does this whole thing with quizzing. So it's quizzing with Kumar actually. Okay. He's really cool. He's a really cool guy and very knowledgeable. He's a proper cricket nerd. So we should actually do something with him. Actually, it'd be nice to do a collab with him.
Do you know what? There's also I don't know if you've ever heard of Bryden Coverdale, who was the Crick Info writer for like 10-15 years in Australia, who like quit to become like a professional quizzer.
Really?
Yeah, and so he's like won every Australian quiz, and he's like when you get so good at quizzing, they get you on to be on the quizzes as like the expert. That's what he does now. And it's funny because I knew him I've known him for years. Even my family, my uncle was one of his teachers, right? And like he was always just Bryden, and then like one day, and he was like the guy at Crick Info who didn't do videos or anything, so he's like not a public figure. And one day I go into a bar with him, and we're just having a drink, and I go up, and the guy goes, mate, is that the shark? And I'm like looking around going, what? And he goes, is that the shark? And I went, what's the shark? And he goes, the guy that you're with. And I looked over and I went, Bryden. And I went, oh yeah, he's the shark on that TV show. And you know, it's like you would have this sometimes when you've had friends for years who are not famous, and then suddenly they're like 5 times more famous than you, and you're like, how did this happen, right? And that's what it was like. I was like, and then you like you look up from your beer and you're looking around, going, oh my god, everyone is looking at us. Like he is legitimately famous. But yeah, no, we should definitely do some trivia stuff, man. That'll be lots of fun.
Yeah, man. I think we should start doing some collabs. I think these we're getting enough traction already, but the collabs will be really cool for the fans, and actually get these guys these guys who are coming in the super chats, get them involved, bring them on live. I think you should do something nice with that.
Yeah, I mean we're open for collabs and other stuff in general as a thing. But I think you'll like Crick Picks, and then there's a few other things that we can do with you as well. That will be fun, I think. Vashek says, white ball cricket, who's more valuable, a genuine all-rounder or a fast bowler who can bat?
Vaishak, I think this is a question that I think people keep asking from India. It's very hard to produce genuine all-rounders in India because of the kind of wickets that exist here, right? You have to be an out-and-out fast bowler and an out-and-out kind of like proper batter as well. And it's very hard, on Indian conditions to produce that kind of skill set and sustain and be injury free to long enough to have a career that produces results. Because the conditions don't help. The conditions are more set for batters, spinners, and far less for fast bowlers, which is why I'm so appreciative of fast bowlers in India, because it is one of the toughest skills to execute and be successful at in cricket. India is the hardest place to be. India and probably Pakistan are the hardest places, but Pakistan at least has a little bit more carry. There's a little bit more skill on the wicket, so there's a little bit more purchase. You'll get a little bit for the fast bowlers, but in India it's genuinely the hardest place to play
but Australia
to produce fast bowlers.
You would agree Australia is a place that it is better to be a fast bowler, right?
It is, yeah. Absolutely.
How many genuine seam bowling all-rounders did Australia have from Alan Davison through to when?
You won't get seam bowlers from Australia simply because you're taught to swing the ball a little bit. And
I don't mean seam bowlers. I just mean quick bowlers in general. Like when you talk about a genuine all-rounder who can bowl seam, swing, fast, whatever that may be, right? That's
Shane Watson.
So Shane Watson takes about a wicket a game. So just an all-rounder.
He's also underutilized.
Well, I think he just got injured, to be honest. Steve Waugh, I think, could have become that. A little bit slower, but a very skillful bowler, but again got injured. Yeah. So Australia isn't producing them. Why would you suddenly... Like, how many genuine all-rounders are there in the history of the game who also...
Good question.
Like, there aren't that many. I can promise you, I've done the numbers. There really aren't that many. So when I remember MS Dhoni... We were talking about this at lunch recently. MS Dhoni did those... When India lost all those series in 2011... the England series and the Australian series, and almost every press conference he's like, we just need a genuine seam bowling all-rounder. And I'm like, yeah, so does every cricket team in the world. Like, it's the hardest thing to find. And then you go through a period where there's bunches of them, right? Like, look at England suddenly had like a load of them at one time. And then you've got Australia now has even, they've got Bo Webster, they've got Cameron Green, even Aaron Hardy, if you want to go down a step, Will Sutherland. But for ages, Australia couldn't find anyone that was like that, right? New Zealand quite often find them, and then they go through periods when they don't do it. And those are in the places where you get them. And how many of those cricketers go on to be successful? It's really hard to be a successful all-rounder in Test cricket. It's probably the hardest job, I think. So I get it, but it's not for me.
The second question he asked was...
why doesn't India produce them?
No. A genuine. Who do you value more?
Oh yeah,
who's more valuable? Genuine all-rounder, fast bowler. Genuine all-rounder.
Every single time. Just to explain this in the simplest way possible, a genuine all-rounder allows for you to have either 6, 7, or even 8 batting options in a lineup and 5 frontline bowling options, right?
It's what India have right now, right?
Yeah,
so India have Akshar Patel, have Hardik Pandya, have Jadeja.
It completely. What we were just talking about with the Australian women's team. It completely changes what the opposition can do, right? Whereas if you've got a fast bowler who can bat a little bit, they're batting at number 8. You don't have any extra batting in the team. What you have is a slightly stronger tail. You're not going to win many games with a slightly stronger tail. You're going to win a lot more games with a fifth bowler who can take wickets. That's a fifth bowler who can take wickets, who you don't lose anything on batting, right? Is the dream, right? That's what you're looking for.
Bang on.
Who's next? Where are we? Rohit says, what's the inside update on 2-tier tests from 2027? I haven't talked to anyone of recent times, to be honest. I've been a little bit out of this cycle a little bit. Because do you know what? This is an interesting about being a journalist. Of when I was on the road and traveling all the time, I had the best contacts ever. But a lot of the people who are my contacts have moved on from their jobs or no longer do the same job. Maybe they're in marketing now, whereas before they had something a little bit more to do with the thing that I wanted them to do with. From what I understand, it is still definitely being discussed, but I don't know how it's going to work, because obviously you can't have 2-tier tests unless you have promotion and relegation. And the same arguments are being having now that they were having 8-10 years ago, which is teams do not want to be relegated. So I find it still very hard to see how it's going to happen. And if we have 2-tier tests and we don't have promotion and relegation, we don't have 2-tier tests. We've just basically recreated test cricket for a bunch of teams, and everyone else is playing first-class cricket, right? So it's a very, very different situation if we do that. But the latest that I'm aware of is that definitely the conversations are still going ahead, and that there's certainly no uniform thought within the system, from what I can tell. Next one. Hair ties for Glorfindel says, so continuing my previous super chat, I didn't even see another super chat. Where do I share my blog with y'all? I get people just share it all the time. Just tag me on social media like everyone else does. I probably get about 5 to 15 articles, videos from people a week. It's just impossible for me to be able to go through them all. There's someone sent me this thing recently that you really like, Robbie, where he went through and he looked, I think it was the best 30 fast bowlers of all time in Test cricket. And it's incredible research and everything. But it's just hours in the day, right? It's just, there's only so many hours in a day, and we don't always be able to get through those. Yeah, you can send them through to us, but we just
especially for someone like you. Yeah, especially for someone like you, because you're doing like multiple shows every day of the week. So for you to kind of sit down, and you do your own research as well. So
I was making graphics for this show.
Yeah, I know. So you know what you should do? You should actually get your AI to kind of categorize these emails based on your interest. He's just gotten stuck.
No, I was glitching in because I was trying to work out if we'll be able to do that. Yeah, maybe.
You just categorize your 5-7 best interests that you're researching right now, and throw all your emails in there and ask to sort it out based on the interests.
So one thing I really like is, I do like people to offer me their work and to tell me about their work, but they also have to be prepared that I may never look at it. But I have, Cheyenne, who works for us, like, the reason he works for me is because he asked me a bunch of questions about my work, and then we got chatting. Varun was another one, heaps of people who, who've been involved. Like, I'm more than happy to, I used to mentor Estelle before, she started working for me as well.
Lovely.
Like, that's the sort of...
I'm looking for a scriptwriter, by the way. I have a bunch of ideas, but I'm looking for a scriptwriter.
What kind of
do the research
writer?
for me? Just for cricket stuff, man. As in, yeah, I'm actually seeking one right now. Trying to find someone who can do research for me on the things that I want to talk about.
Are you paying them in Zcoin?
Of course. No. It's not Zcoin.
Did I get it wrong? Is it Zcash?
It's Zcash.
Zcash.
No, Zcash.
Okay. So I didn't
do your own research. DYOR, guys. DYOR.
I don't know what he's talking about. Next question. No? Okay, I'll do it. Oh my God. Nope, still Raksha's a shocker here.
Okay, and my son wants to come and say hi. Just drop and say hi.
Hello.
Happy birthday, buddy! He can't hear me anyway.
Saying happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, see you now.
Um,
See you now.
Siddharth says, develop NKR as an all-rounder or pick a specialist. You try and develop an all-rounder as much.
Develop as an all-rounder. Yeah.
We're both going to say that for the same reason we were talking about before, which is an all-rounder can be transformative to your team. Go back and have a look at the period when we were talking about the Australian women's team. That's why you pick all-rounders. Soham says, what do retired cricketers who don't get into broadcasting, YouTube, etc. do, especially for non-superstar cricketers and female ex-players? So most players just go off and do normal jobs. It's fair. The vast majority
depends on which part of the world you're in.
Yeah, like, but I think most, I think of the there's 3,000 players now. Of those 3,000 players, I would say the vast majority, maybe not, you're probably right. It's probably about 30% go and do normal jobs. Is that fair?
Yeah.
30% work in schools or academies or
coaching.
What would you call
training.
It? Coaching, like individual coaching, where you can just hire someone to come and coach you.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that.
Training, they become trainers, they become coaches, strength trainers.
Yeah, personal trainers is another big one.
Personal trainers. Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of that sort of stuff as well. And then you've probably got, and then the rest probably go back into the system, right? Into the sort of professional system one way or another.
I think there's one guy who doesn't like broadcasting, but I think will be so fucking hilarious, man, on a broadcast. He's such a funny guy, but flies under the radar, who I absolutely love is Stuart Binney. Stuart is hilarious, right? He has got the wittiest sense of humor, is really funny, and really affable guy, but he doesn't like broadcasting, right? But if he started and spoke his mind, and if he was just himself, oh my God, he is so funny. He does so well in broadcasting.
It's one of the things of, so Bumble. Bumble's a really interesting person because obviously he plays, he umpires, he coaches, he commentates, right? So he's had this incredible career in cricket. And one of the things we always talk about is how hard it is to find the next Bumble, right? Someone who can come through, who can just be naturally engaging. So do you remember when Shane Watson came in as a commentator? And I was like, how's this going to go? Because Shane Watson was always a bit of an awkward person in press conferences and everything. I thought Shane Watson was fantastic as a commentator.
Yeah, he is.
And so there's a few different players out there. But the problem is, and you and I know this more than most, there aren't that many jobs. So even if you want to be a commentator, like I'll have players contact me and go, how do I get into this? And I was like, well, there's one series here, and then there's another series in 3 months you might get work for. Right. And if you don't make a lot of money in that first gig, what are you going to do for the rest of the year? So it's actually very hard for players to go on to be commentators. And do you know what I don't know if you know this, but you might know this. Do you know what one of the most prestigious sort of jobs is? Not prestigious, maybe the wrong way of putting it. One of the most loved jobs of former English cricketers. Do you know what it is?
Real estate?
No, it's coaching school cricket. Because if you're an international player or a county player with a good career and you get into a school system, you can have that job for the next 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Like it helps, to say, oh, this guy played 100 games for Notts, or he played 4 test matches for England, or he played 20 ODIs or whatever. And so I know of guys who have retired early to take those jobs because they're like, the last couple of years, I'll make more money from playing cricket, but that job may not be available. Whereas I can do this. And they go on and they do it. And then during the summer, when there's no school on, they might go off and play, a bunch of games for corporate teams or whatever and pick up a little bit of extra money and do some speaking and everything else. But their main earner is literally wiping 13-year-olds' noses and helping rich kids play cricket. Yeah, and I'm not talking about the elite schools. I'm just talking about any school with well, I mean elite as in financially, but I don't mean elite as in cricket schools. I mean some of these guys are test players, really good test players, and they're coaching kids who can barely scratch themselves, right? It's that level, and it's a really but they see this as a great job because for that next 30 years they don't have to worry, and that's the big thing. I know you're always talking about that is what happens next. It's like a whirlpool. You're going through it at the moment, and I've seen so many players go through what you're going through, which is there's all these exciting things and you met all these people during your career and you want to put something together, but you go to LinkedIn and you look at former players, there's a graveyard of all their business ideas and how they haven't gone through correctly. It's a really, that 5 years after you retire is so tough. And so that's why if you can find a steady job like a lot of the England players do, they just absolutely love that.
But the hard thing is also, say for someone who's had a successful career, right, and you're moving to the next thing, you have to understand that you're restarting. You can't catch the same wave of momentum that you ended your career with. That becomes a separate thing, right? This what you're starting again, like with True, with my company that I'm set right now. I know that the first few years are it's gonna be slow build and like I'm gonna build over, and then over a period of time it's gonna pick up traction, right? I'm not expecting it to do as well as I finished my cricket with. I'm expecting it to grow gradually over a period of time, build momentum, and then it becoming something, right? So I'm working with that expectation. I'm not working with the an unrealistic expectation of earning X amount of money in this from this. I'm like, now I'm looking at building this and building this repertoire over a period of time, and then when it catches enough traction, because it's service based, right? So it's about servicing people. It's about helping people. It's about helping people become the best version of themselves, helping them with high performance, helping them with leadership. It's with all of that stuff, right? So it's going to take time to build that, and I know that as I do more work, more awareness will grow, and then then the earnings will start to flow. So you got to plan financially for it also. It's not just,
you have to plan for the fact that you're going to make less money, right? Like, and I know that sounds weird, but not everyone plans for that. Like, I've seen cricketers be like, what can I make, commentating like 200 grand a year. And I was like, if you get an IPL gig, right, or a Sky gig, Channel 9 maybe, or Channel 7, or whoever it would be these days. But like, most people are not going to walk into that, right? And
no.
I always look at it also, like you look at commentary, I always call this the Russell Arnold rule. Russell Arnold is a good commentator, and he's commentating on the Women's World Cup at the moment, and he worked on his commentary and everything. But we all knew that Kumar was going to retire, right? And, I've seen that with England players as well, of like, you guys are doing great, but you do realize that Stuart Broad's going to retire soon, and he's going to go straight into that spot, and you are back to where you began. So it's very tough. On the women's cricket, I'll just say they're starting to work a lot more in cricket, whereas traditionally women cricketers would finish their careers and not be involved in cricket at all, and that's not the case anymore. It's really starting to change over the last 3 to 4 years. I mean, it makes sense because there's more professionalism everywhere in women's cricket now, right? Shubman says, watching from Heike, Hong Kong. Wow. Will Indian stadiums improve if ticket sales barely matter to state associations' revenue? What incentives would actually work? They've just got to make the stadiums better, don't they, in India? The stadiums are just not good.
It's amazing how much we as Indians will tolerate to watch a game of cricket. One of the scary parts is like just the restrooms, man. The restroom experiences are...
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, some of those grounds, even the press toilets are not acceptable, right? Like, and there's just nowhere. I think it was, I want to say, no, it wasn't Nagpur. It might have been Pune, where all the TV companies brought in their own special toilets because there was nowhere in the ground where they felt comfortable going to the toilet. And you're just like, that's not okay. That's just,
and that was a traumatic experience, right?
Yeah. And so
some of these things.
Also, the food in some of those grounds is so shambolic in the way it's done. Getting into the grounds is not run correctly. And I should say, there's a few other, India gets a lot of bad flack because I think India is like, has the money to fix this. But there's a few places in the world, like South Africa can be a bit weird, their venues as well. Sri Lanka, some of the venues are a bit weird. Like, we can be better in cricket. England's just starting to get their grounds, and I suppose English football grounds are also kind of weird, but they're just starting to get to the point where I think the fans expect something different. But if you've ever been to an Australian sporting arena outside of the old Wacker, like, you will understand the difference between that and pretty much the rest of the cricket world. And remember that those grounds are not paid for by cricket. They're generally paid for by Aussie rules. Walking Alive says, why can't we have 2 groups of 7 in World Test Championship? Yes, we can. We can have anything. It's whether these teams want to be in a position where they don't want to be relegated. There are so many things we could do with the World Test Championship. And at the moment, it's about the relegation issue. The India-Pakistan one that you mentioned there is also quite interesting. But that is, as far as I'm aware, that isn't the biggest sticking point at the moment. The biggest sticking point is the major teams are like, we don't want to be relegated. And that's why we didn't have proper promotion relegation the previous time, right? That's why we're in a situation at the moment where we don't have that. It's because teams don't want to be relegated. Final super chat. Vibor says, Jarrod, loved your piece on Perry. Thank you very much. Inspirational. You really paint with words. Does India need to switch?
Sweet.
It is. It's very nice. Does India need switching to Rahul and bat one short or stick to the current setup? Why has Shafali fallen off? Okay, so thank you very much for being nice. I think India can go in with one fewer batting option. And I think it's a bit risky, but I think you need to take a risk if you're going to beat Australia. And I think they have enough batting to do it. I'm not sure they have enough bowling options at the moment to do it. I think they need a specialist bowler to come in and do something. So I think Rahul is probably the way to go. I don't know. I don't have any great views on Shafali. Do you have anything?
I think Shafali has pegged herself to be like a hitter, right, at the top. And with that, I think comes the suffrage of inconsistencies, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, I think they want a little bit more of a reliable start, and they have that with Smriti, but the other opener right now, I forget her name.
Oh my god, I forgot her name. They've basically got two anchors at the top, don't they? In that setup, the way that it goes at the moment, and I think
and that offers Harmanpreet the luxury of being a little bit more aggressive. I think it's Pratika Rawal, I think.
Yeah, and then they've got Harleen at first drop, don't they? So I think that they probably can get rid of one of the anchors and just trust that they're still batting down to number 8. But I can understand
because
why
a lot is also dependent on Jemimah, right? Jemimah has to also come off in that middle order for them to finish strong, because I think Jemimah is one of the most consistent players in the middle order for them, right? Jemimah generally you would want her to bat at the top. But I think now they've decided that Jemimah will play more of a finisher's role. So, and she's one who's probably got the most short range in that squad. So you want her to be there in the middle order, but you want a little bit of cushion on top as well. And I do believe that the girls can as not with boundary hitting, but I think they can focus a lot more on strike rotation. I think there are opportunities there to just rotate the strike a lot better. I remember watching the India-Pakistan game. It was like they were stacking up 4 or 5 runs in over when they could have easily gotten, sometimes actually just 3 or 4 runs in over when they could easily have gotten 6 or 7.
It is hard though in women's cricket because you've got the extra player in the smaller circle. So you do get stuck a little bit more. But I know what you mean. Just to get Shafali's record, even when she was at her best, she's averaging about 25, 26 in ODI cricket at a strike rate of 76 to 86. So they're not getting enough bang and they're not getting enough buck, I think, in that situation. So I can see why they've moved on. I do think, though, I think you make a good point. I do think they get a little bit stuck. And the problem is that for these other teams, they have to bat normally. Whereas, as we said with Australia can take so many chances knowing that there's always someone to get. It's like twice in this tournament, they've been completely, in bad situations and got out of it because there's always going to be someone who's going to make runs. Whereas if you're India, you're probably a little bit more nervous about that.
Correct, exactly. And that's the thing. When you're going to go up against a team like Australia, if you don't have the basics covered as far as strike rotation, they're going to push you up against a wall, and then you're going to try and hit out, and then that's going to, more often than not, it's going to lead to a wicket, right? Unless you're having an exceptional day like Richa had the other day,
That was a good knock. Did you see that one?
As well. That was a good one. And you kind of decipher that innings quite well, where she's quite start and stop. Now imagine she added just singles onto that whole aspect. Not twos, but just singles. Like if you're getting a dot ball, like if you can get 30% of your dot balls away or 40% of your dot balls away into singles, right? It's not a big shot, but convert that into 1 run.
I wonder.
That will take your...
This is such a random one, and I don't mean this person alone, because you'll know the kind of player I mean. She reminds me a lot of Azhar Ali in that I think she's someone who probably developed batting later on, and she's probably became very good batting in the nets. And so she's not as good at simply finding the gap as someone who's a really good batter at 12, 13, 14, right? Or it's the opposite might be that she's always been so powerful she can just hit the ball over the top, but she gets trapped.
I think
whereas
it's more that.
It could be that.
I think it's more that. I think it could be that because I think she's probably played a level of cricket in India where no one threatened her with dot balls, and even if she played a few dot balls, it didn't really bother her because
she's going to hit 2 or 3 fours on the back end.
She's going to hit 2 or 3 or 4, and get away with and make up for it, right? But at the international level, that's not going to be the case. When you're playing the World Cup, the percentage of better bowlers and the percentage of good balls that you get to face are a lot more. And if you don't have that important piece covered, then as a batter, it can catch up with you, especially when form's not going your way.
No, definitely. That is it from me and Robbie. Like, subscribe, find all of our million things. And remember to tag every single article that you write or any photo that you take. Remember to tag Robbie in every single one of them from here until the end of his life. We'll see you next time.
But wait, listen.
Wait,
like send us, like if you want to send us blogs, then I'll share Jarrod's email on the comments below.